to our presentation based on the revenue management simulation.
For the Revsim project, we decided to name our hotel the Penta Hotel, and we have also assigned different roles for each member of the group.
These are the topics we will discuss in the upcoming presentation.
For our positioning, we're mainly targeting premium transient guests, both for leisure and business. We have also adopted a more aggressive pricing strategy, which means that we charge higher prices compared to our competitors.
For our pricing strategy, we began with a maximized occupancy strategy and set our room rates based on the documents we received. Within that quarter though, we decided, because our competitors' rates were a lot higher than ours, we decided to increase our rates and move to a maximized rate strategy. In quarter two, we kept with this final strategy from quarter one and kept the rates the same. In quarter three, however, we decided we should, since it's a high demand period, we should increase our quality and our value for our guests, and in addition to this, we can increase our prices. Finally, in quarter four, we decreased our rates because we were entering a lower demand period.
We decided to position ourselves at around that red dot in order to obtain a high quality and high price. However, towards the end, we found ourselves to be positioned over there, which shows that we are slightly below the average of quality, though we are on line with the average price. Now, being suboptimal, it is still evident that we are in line with the averages of our other competition. However, if we take into account our limited budget and the fact that it was hard for us to install major facilities such as restaurants, this is understandable.
Initially, we decided to base our occupancy percentages on the documents we received, basing these on the weekend and weekday percentages from previous years. We then increased our pickups based on the reservations in the books, which was given in the simulation program. And in addition to this, we tried to adapt it to the maximum rooms available. Two constraints that follow throughout the entire year were the capacity of the hotel, which is 250 rooms, and the occupancy throughout the quarters, which was given based on the previous years. So the major difference we see between quarter two and quarter three is the fact that we changed our strategy and decided to start fixing our pickups based on the fair share value that was given to us. So this is why you see a significant increase from quarter two to quarter three. Finally, in quarter four, we're entering a lower demand period, which is why, even though the occupancy was still higher than we expected, we decided to decrease our pickups there. And then to the room rates. Initially, as mentioned before, we started off with a maximized occupancy strategy, which is why we set our rates at this price. Then throughout the quarter though, we decided to increase our room rates initially by 25% and then decrease them a bit lower because we noticed that compared to the competitors, our rates were not accurate. Finally, in quarter two and three, we stayed quite constant. And lastly, in quarter four, we significantly decreased our rates because we were entering a very low demand period, so we decided to decrease our rates for the end of the year.
So we began the refurbishments by cleaning the standard room, which costed us $10,000. We did so in order to provide our standard guests with proper cleaned rooms, as our room rates in January were relatively high compared to our competitors. The contract lasted 2 months, making some of the rooms out of odor, so on average 118, but it wasn't a problem because at that moment our occupancy was quite low with 46.5% occupancy. Afterwards, we decided to refurbish the front desk for a cost of $10,000 to add value to our hotel and justify the fact that towards the end of the quarter we had the highest rates. Regarding quarter two, we started with no refurbishments, and then we decided to prepare for the high season. This is why we did all the cleaning that we did, and as well all the soft redos for a total cost of $68,000. Our strategy was to increase the value and reputation of our hotel to match our prices. Concerning quarter three, the only refurbishment we did in this quarter was the cleaning of the standard and the premium rooms. that costed a total of $15,000 during the first month to try and bring our quality up. We then realized that we should have done this cleaning before, so at the end of Q2, the last month, in order to be prepared for the high season, as our occupancy during Q3 was around 66.8%. As we said earlier, the contract takes 2 months and it implies a certain amount of rooms that are out of order. This is why we had on average 775 standard rooms and 186 premium rooms out of order throughout the third quarter. Concerning Q4, we noted that after high season, the quality of our hotel went down, with an overall reputation dropping from 61% to 53% due to all the guests that used the rooms and facility. As we already did all the cleaning contract, we decided to focus on the other facilities and the other spaces of the hotel. Regarding the graphs, this is the graph that shows the effect of refurbishments on the reputation. This graph is based on the averages of the percentages of each quarter, so the last line of the table. We can see that the effort we made during Q1 and Q2 to increase the value of our hotel in order to match our prices and be well prepared for the high season was efficient. As we can see, there was a slight growth of the reputation, and then we can see that our reputation decreased drastically during Q3, which is normal as our occupancy was at its highest, meaning that the guests used the room and the facilities, leaving afterwards the hotel dirty.
So our first additions for the marketing was to add a performance benchmarking service and e-commerce. The performance benchmark gave us an accurate month-to-month representation of our KPIs compared to our competition, while the e-commerce gave us internet visibility through a company website, GDS, travel agencies, etc., as well as quantitative representations of customer comments. Then, in July, we decided to add a loyalty program in order to cultivate ongoing relationships to encourage our guests to spend more and stay longer. We also added a hotel website to gain bookings directly without incurring greater charges that we would otherwise gain from OTAs. Now, in regards to our spending, our spending for room advertising for the quarter was inaccurate, since we were allocating 2 to 3% of our room revenue rather than the total revenue. Therefore, we didn't have any significant visibility. As of May, we changed to the correct approach and spent significantly more, especially at the end of Q2 and Q3 due to the demand spikes. We decided not to invest in wholesale because there was no demand for it. In this graph, there is a clear increase in overall expenditure starting from May, especially during the months of July, August, and September. The direct channel was so drastically raised because that was when we added the hotel website, and it was the main channel we wanted to push our bookings through due to higher demand periods. The vast increase can be justified by the growth demand during Q3, which vastly increased our revenue, and it was our spending power on marketing. Now, in this graph, we decided to compare our marketing expenditure and our occupancy with our own hotel and our competitors. Now, after we started spending more on our marketing expenditure from May, you can see that the gap was significantly narrowed from this point onto this point.
Hello everyone, now I'll be explaining to you the channel management decisions that we made throughout the quarters. During Q1, we decided to allocate a lot to our direct distribution channels since we were attracting premium guests to get them to book directly with our website. Then we also allocated some to GDS as well as OTAs, as was provided for us in the documents. For Q2, we continued to do a little bit the same. However, we did increase dramatically our direct for premium. This was because we wanted to increase our visibility as high season was coming in Q3. We also increased significantly our OTAs for bar standard, as was also indicated by the documents provided to us. Next, during Q3, this was mostly steady, went back to how we were doing it in Q1. This was where we decided to focus mostly on our dynamic pricing in order to increase the rates when the occupancy was higher than expected and lower the rates if the occupancy was lower than expected. However, our occupancy stayed pretty much how we intended it to, and therefore we did the dynamic pricing function was not utilized as much as we would have wished for it. And finally, for Q4, we stayed the same as our occupancy was decreasing. As seen by the graph, direct channels as well as GDS attract guests and bring in the highest percentage of the room revenue for every month. While the direct channels do cost us $10 per booking, it's important to see that these costs are made up by the fact that for every month, 40% of the room revenue is brought in by these direct channels. Additionally, this cost is still lower than the 15% that the GDS costs. And even furthermore, the OTAs cost us 20% per booking. So it's better to be using these direct channels, which has cost us less, than using OTAs, which cost us more.
Here, the guest satisfactions on services and facilities are shown in a line graph. Our target customers are premium guests, so for both facilities and services, our aim was to provide the highest value for them. We started with a total available fund of $500,000, so we knew from the start that we weren't able to afford a restaurant nor a spa, which costed more than our budget. And even though we think that this would be profitable and would increase the quality of our hotel. So that's why in the first month we added the only first F&B facility we can afford, which was a kiosk. And then throughout the year we added as many facilities we could afford, and then what we thought would provide a great value for our guests. It can be seen in the table, each facility that's available led to an increase of 10%. For example, in the first month we added the kiosk, which was ready in February, and this led to an increase of 10%. For services, there were already existing services implemented in January, such as parking, laundry, guest room entertainment, and room service. And this was shown by an already existing 38% in the month of January of guest satisfaction. Each service that was added led to an increase in guest satisfaction of around 7 to 8%. And we chose to add the guest room internet first because we thought that it was a basic requirement and expectation for both leisure and business guests we were targeting. Especially for business guests in the first quarter. Throughout the year, we added that what we thought we could afford in terms of services and facilities. However, we focused more in quarter one and the start of quarter two so that our facilities and services would be ready for a high season in quarter three. Furthermore, along with the lack of the budget, it explains why we didn't add many services and facilities after quarter two, shown by the flat lines in the graph after quarter two.
According to the documents provided for us, the hotel would see a mostly higher occupancy rate for weekdays than for weekends. We see this showcased through our RevPAR. What we wanted to do is that when there was a higher occupancy rate for the weekdays, which was during quarter 1 and 2, we increased our room rates for those weekdays, which led to an increase in the RevPAR. However, when high season hit, we saw that our occupancy was higher for the weekend, which makes sense as there are leisure families coming to the hotel and staying over the weekend. Therefore, we increased our room rates for the weekends during this period. However, then during quarter 4, RevPAR decreased, which makes sense as the occupancy decreased. We also decreased our room rates. However, the weekdays also became a higher occupancy compared to the weekends.
So here we have a representation of our quarterly GOP. As we can see, there is a constant growth between quarter 1, 2, and 3. Between quarter 1 and 2, we see a growth of 5.16%, and between quarter 2 and 3, a growth of 3.48%. Quarter 3, we reached our highest GOP, and as expected, given that it was the quarter with the highest occupancy. Now in quarter 4, we only had a minor decrease of 0.45%, and this is due to the fact that it was actually a better quarter than the previous years as given in the documents.
So we had a few limitations during our simulation. Firstly, our analysis of data between January to April is not fully reliable because we weren't basing our values for marketing expenditure and the room pickup correctly. Secondly, because of our tight budget, it restricted us from building major facilities such as a restaurant nor a spa, and this hindered our reputation and quality compared to our high prices charged. Lastly, our analysis excluded the transient, group, and discounted sections since we did not think that they were as pertinent given our chosen category of premium leisure guests.
So regarding our recommendations, on the short term, it would be to base our pickup estimates from the fair share values from the start. Then it would be to emphasize the dynamic pricing during periods of high and low demand, as well target groups more during low demand periods and transient in high demand periods. And finally, do remember that it's fundamental to clean and do the maintenance of rooms and facilities before high demand periods in order to be well prepared. Concerning the long term, our recommendations will be to save up during the low demand periods in order to invest greater amounts in facilities for the high demand periods, and as well to monitor competitors' prices and positioning in order to estimate their future strategy.